Look around this beautiful living world. You will find a vast range of amazing living organisms. But what does it mean to be alive? All living organisms share 5 basic properties: growth, reproduction, metabolism, consciousness, and heredity. Growth. All living organisms grow. Growth may be defined as an irreversible increase in size and mass. It occurs inside the living organisms, either due to increase in the number or size of the constituent cells in living organisms. Growth in unicellular organisms. Unicellular organisms increase their number by cell division. In vitro cultures, increase in number of cells in the colony of bacteria occurs due to the division of a few bacterial cells taken in the start of the culture. Growth in multicellular organisms. There are 2 aspects of growth of multicellular organisms: cell division and cell enlargement. In cell division, the cells of the body divide to produce more cells, and hence growth of the organism occurs. While during cell enlargement, the cells of the body elongate to increase the size of the individual. Plant growth. Limited to certain body parts and tissues. There are regions called meristems. These regions are the sites of active growth in plants. Example: apical meristem is present at the tips of roots and shoots and cause increase in the length of the plant. Now, in case of trees, the thickness of the tree trunk keeps increasing every year. Growth in animals. Animal growth is not restricted to specific tissue or body part. All the parts of the animals show growth. Growth is limited. In animals, growth is seen only up to a certain age. Example: in human beings, growth of the body occurs till 18 to 19 years. Growth in non-living things. Non-living objects exhibit increase in mass sometimes. Hence, non-living objects also show growth. Growth in non-living things is due to accumulation of material on the surface. Example: sand mounds, boulder, etc. Growth alone, therefore, cannot be considered as a defining property of living organisms. Reproduction. Reproduction is a biological process in which an organism gives rise to young one or ones, more or less similar to those of parents. For example, a hen lays eggs which develop into chicks, similar to the hen. It helps the species to maintain its existence. If the organisms will not be able to produce their offsprings, one day all the organisms of that type will die. Hence, their species will get extinct. Reproduction is of 2 types. 1. Asexual reproduction. Sexual reproduction. Asexual reproduction, which involves only one parent. Sexual reproduction, which involves 2 parents. Modes of asexual reproduction. Budding in yeast. A bud on the parent yeast cell develops into a new individual. Buds on the leaf margin of bryophyllum grow to produce new plants. In planaria, flatworms, we observe true regeneration. That is, a fragmented organism regenerates the lost part of its body and becomes a new organism. But reproduction alone, therefore, cannot be considered as a defining property of living organisms, because many living organisms, like mules, sterile worker bees, infertile couples, etc., cannot reproduce. Metabolism. It is the sum total of all the chemical reactions occurring within the living organisms. Substances like oxygen, water, food, etc. are taken in by the living organisms. These substances undergo metabolism to produce substances that are given out like carbon dioxide, urine, feces, etc. Biochemical reactions. The chemical reactions involved in metabolism are known as metabolic reactions or biochemical reactions. Biochemical reactions are of two types. 1. Anabolic reactions. These involve synthesis of a biomolecule and trapping of energy in it. Example, formation of carbohydrates in the cells is an anabolic process. 2. Catabolic reactions. These involve breakdown of a biomolecule and release of energy. Example, digestion of food involves a number of catabolic processes during which breakdown of various nutrients like carbohydrates, fats, etc. occurs by the action of digestive enzymes. Metabolism and living organisms. All living organisms are made of chemicals, and thousands of chemical reactions occur simultaneously in the living body. Metabolic reactions can be demonstrated outside the body, in vitro, in cultures in a cell-free system. Non-living bodies do not exhibit the process of metabolism. Hence, metabolism is a defining feature of the living beings, as it is shown by living bodies only. Consciousness. Consciousness is the ability of an organism to sense its surroundings. The changes in the environment that produce certain responses in the living organisms are called stimulus. Stimuli could be physical, example light, chemical, example scents, or biological, microbe. All living organisms respond to stimuli around them. Our sense organs. Skin, eyes, ears, nose, tongue. These organs help in receiving these stimuli. Plants too respond to external factors like light, water, temperature, other organisms and pollutants. Touch. Photoperiod, which is the period of light, affects reproduction in plants. Some plants flower when they are subjected to longer photoperiods than others.
At the end of the lesson, the student will be able to understand the basic properties of living organisms, know about the diversity in the living world, learn about the different categories involved in taxonomy, know about the various taxonomical aids.
Biodiversity, the variation of all life forms, be it plants, insects, birds, other animals, or microbes within a given ecosystem, biome, or on the entire earth. A measure of the health of biological systems. More diversity means that a system is more healthy and capable enough to fulfill the needs of various life forms. Biodiversity in the living world. Diversity we see today is the result of 3.5 billion years of organic evolution. The number of species that are known and described ranges between 1.7 to 1.8 million. The wide range of living organisms can be found in all sorts of habitats, be it cold mountains, deciduous forests, oceans, freshwater lakes, or deserts. Biodiversity occurs at molecular level also, as different types of proteins and carbohydrates are found in organisms. Systematics. It is the study of classification of organisms and their relationships. The word systematics is derived from the Latin word systema, means systematic arrangement of organisms. It takes into account the evolutionary relationships between organisms. It includes identification, classification, nomenclature. Identification. It is the process of describing the organism and providing correct name to it. For classification and detailed studies, identification and study of the characteristics of the concerned organisms is an important part. For this, intensive laboratory and field studies are required. Taxonomical aids also help in the process of identification. Classification is the process by which organisms are grouped into convenient categories based on their similarities and dissimilarities. Since it will be difficult to study all the organisms separately, the organisms are grouped by the process of classification. Example, plants and animals are two kingdoms. They can further be divided on the basis of other characteristics. There are different levels in classification. Nomenclature. Plants and animals are generally recognized by their local names. Local names change from place to place. These local names can cause confusion. The naming of living organisms should be standardized so that the organism could be recognized by a single name all over the world. The process of naming an organism is known as nomenclature. Standard nomenclature. To standardize the naming, the organism should be described correctly. Scientific names of plants are based on agreed principles and criteria, which are provided in the International Code for Botanical Nomenclature, ICBN. Animals are named in the same way, and the animal taxonomists have evolved International Code for Zoological Nomenclature, ICZN. Binomial nomenclature. The standard system of providing a name to an organism in two components is called binomial nomenclature. Each scientific name has two components: generic name and specific epithet. Carolus Linnaeus introduced binomial system in the year 1735 in the book Systema Naturae. Rules of binomial nomenclature. Scientific names are given in Latin language. Each biological name has two components. Generic, the first word which represents the genus. Specific, the second word representing the species. Scientific names, when handwritten, are separately underlined and, if printed, are typed in italics. Genus name starts with a capital letter, while the specific epithet starts with a small letter. Name of the scientist who discovered the species for the first time comes after the whole name in abbreviated form. An example: scientific name of mango is Mangifera indica Linn. Mangifera is the generic name. Indica is the specific epithet. Linn is for Linnaeus, as it was described by Linnaeus for the first time. As it is printed, it is written in italics. If handwritten, this can be written as Mangifera indica Linn. Advantages of binomial nomenclature. Unique and universal names. All the organisms under binomial system of nomenclature have their unique, specific names. Hence, Mangifera indica indicates mango only. This name should not be used for any other organism. Scientific names. The scientific names indicate close relationship of the species with others placed in the same genus. Example: lion, Panthera leo; leopard, Panthera pardus; tiger, Panthera tigris, etc. have same genus Panthera in their names. It shows that although they are different species, but closely related to each other. Taxonomy. The process of identification, classification, and nomenclature of the organisms. Taxonomic categories. These are the various groups or ranks in the classification of the organisms. These include species, genus, family, order, class, phylum, kingdom. Each level of classification represents one category termed as taxon, plural taxa. All categories together constitute the taxonomical hierarchy. Taxonomical hierarchy. 1. As we move up from species to kingdom, the similarities between the individuals within that category goes on decreasing. 2. The individuals of different species in a genus are more similar than the individuals of the different genus in a family. Species. The smallest unit of taxonomical hierarchy. The members of the species are morphologically very much similar to each other. It forms an interbreeding population, and its individuals can produce the fertile offsprings. Example: Panthera tigris is a tiger. Its another species, Panthera pardus, is leopard, which is morphologically similar but cannot breed successfully with the first one. Genus. The generic name refers to the genus, which is a group of species that are closely related. Example: potato and brinjal are different species, but some common characters have been kept under one genus, Solanum. Pardus, leopard, and Tigris, tiger, are closely related species, thus are kept under the same genus, Panthera. Family. It is a group of related genera with still less number of similarities as compared to genus and species. Family names always end in the letters A, E, but are not printed in any special way. Families are characterized on the basis of reproductive features. Examples: 3 plant genera, Solanum, Petunia, and Datura, are placed in one family, Solanaceae. Animal genus Panthera, comprising lion, tiger, and leopard, along with genus Felis, cat, has been kept under a common family, Felidae. Order. An order is a group of families which exhibit a certain level of similarities, though not as much as in a family, genus, or the species.
Orders begin with a capital and usually end in A or ales, but not always.
Examples: plant families named Convolvulaceae and Solanaceae, on the basis of similarity in some floral characters, have been kept under one order, Polemoniales. Class. Related orders are assembled into a class. Example: class Mammalia comprises, for example, order Primata, which has monkey, gorilla, and gibbons; order Carnivora, having tiger, cat, and dog. Individuals of order Polemoniales, along with individuals of other orders, like Genitanials, are placed under class Dicotyledonnae, due to the presence of 2 cotyledons in their seeds. Phylum. Phylum is a major group comprising of similar classes. Example: animal classes comprising Pisces, Amphibia, Reptilia, Aves, and Mammalia have been kept in one phylum named Chordata. It is so because of the presence of some common features: presence of notochord, presence of dorsal hollow neural system. Plant classification on the basis of the presence or absence of a seed cover has been placed into 2 phyla, Angiosperms and Gymnosperms respectively. Kingdom, the highest taxonomic category in the living world.
All the organisms on the earth have been divided into 5 kingdoms: Plantae, Animalia, Fungi, Protista, and Monera. All animals have been kept in kingdom Animalia and all plants in kingdom Plantae.
Different techniques and procedures have been devised for the precise studies of organisms. These devices are called taxonomical aids. These are the things that help us in identification of species of an organism and finding its taxonomical details. Taxonomic aids. These include herbarium, botanical gardens, museum, zoological parks, and taxonomic key. Herbarium, a storehouse of dried and preserved plant specimens. Plant specimens are mounted on sheets of paper called herbarium sheets. These are prepared by pressing plants, drying them flat, and fixing them to paper. Advantages: plants would be available even out of season. Pressed plants, if properly cared, will maintain most of their salient features for hundreds of years. Insects are preserved in boxes in a museum after collecting, killing, and pinning them. Some animals like birds, pigeon, parrots, etc., and mammals are killed, stuffed, and then preserved in a museum. Zoological park. These are the places for preservation of living animals. The purpose of zoological parks or zoo is the same as that of museums, that is, recreational and educational. The environment is kept under controlled conditions, near to the natural one, and the care is done by the humans. In such parks, the behavior and the food habits of the kept animal species can be well understood. Taxonomic key. A taxonomic key looks at the similarities and differences between objects using a series of statements called as leads. Each lead consists of a set of contrasting characteristics. Each pair of such contrasting characters is called couplet. Out of the two statements, only one is accepted, while the other one is rejected on the basis of analysis. Separate keys are required for different taxa. Flora gives the description and information about the plants of a particular area. Manuals provide identifying features and pictures of the various species of an area. There exists a vast range of living organisms. All living organisms share 5 basic properties. Growth. This is an irreversible increase in the number of cells or mass of the living structure. Reproduction. The biological process in which an organism gives rise to young ones similar to itself is called reproduction. Metabolism. The sum total of the chemical reactions occurring in a living body is called metabolism. Consciousness. Characteristics of the living organisms to sense their environment. Heredity. All living organisms possess a genetic system that is based on DNA. Biodiversity is the variation of all life forms, like plants, animals, birds, insects, or microbes within a given ecosystem, biome, or the entire Earth. There are different steps involved in taxonomy. 1. Identification of the organisms. 2. Nomenclature according to binomial nomenclature. And 3. Classification.